Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of the Long Range Noob podcast, the podcast for people new to long range shooting, brought to you by people new to long range shooting. I am your host. Actually, I am your co-host, Jace Leroy, and alongside me today is the other co-host, Ryan, the Steel Slapper Danowski.
Thanks. Oh, sorry.
And it's true. Ryan, he doesn't even shoot his targets. He just runs up the hill to the steel and slaps it with his hand.
With my fist, you know.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird to go shooting with him when he does it. I don't know how to handle myself. We're going to start off this week with, and we may have did this last week, I don't remember. I also want to note that this is our first recording, our first attempt at episode number 2.
For those not of you, a guaranteed thing.
Not a guaranteed thing, but for those of you who tuned in last week, you'll know that our first episode, I guess our first recording of the episode didn't quite go as planned, and we had to re-record it. So, new to long-range shooting and new to podcasts. So, we're going to start out this week. We're going to talk about what we did, or what we've been doing, gun-related wise, in our off time since the last episode came out. And I'm going to go ahead and have Ryan tell us what he's been up to.
I've actually been working on a few different projects. The first one is a 300 Blackout rifle that I'm repurposing to be a just back to the regular old 223-556, chambered rifle.
Now, the 300 Blackout, that's the one that you cast your own bullets for.
Yeah, I do cast for that one.
So that makes Ryan super hardcore because he sits in his reloading garage and literally pours molten lead into a cast and casts his own bullets. For anyone who's seen the movie Monster Squad, an awesome 80s monster movie, they do the same thing in that movie, making silver bullets to shoot Wolfman. Anyway, when Ryan told me that he casts his own bullets, I didn't know that was a thing. And so it always just kind of blew my mind. But anyway, I'll let you continue. I just always thought that was really cool about your Blackout.
Yeah, well, actually the 300 Blackout is perfect for casting bullets. You have you want a bigger bullet, the 220, 240 grains, something like that you're casting into a 30 caliber, type bullet, but you're only shooting it, you want to shoot it at subsonic velocities. And you do that, for suppressors, which I'm really excited. I've got my 9mm Liberty Mystic suppressor that should be here maybe in a week or two. So back from the ATF jail or over at the dealer. Yeah, it's been there for about 6 months now.
Waiting for someone to adopt it, bring it
to
home,
love it,
love it, hold it, care for
it. Yep, exactly, all those things. I've actually built 2 300 Blackout rifles. One of them is like a shorty, technically pistol on the that one. So it's doesn't have a stock on it, just has the
it used to have the SIG brace on it, correct?
It did used to have the SIG brace until just recently with the ATF and some of their not really legislation, because a letter isn't really legislation, but basically, in their newest letter to the gun community at large, they've stated that SIG braces, while shoulderable, if you shoulder them, you're basically building an SBR, even though they've approved the brace. That's a whole other topic.
Essentially, the ATF put the ban hammer down on the SIG brace, and so it's made a lot of people uncomfortable. And the SIG brace was specifically designed for a short-barreled, not a short-barreled, but a pistol, right?
Yeah,
basically a pistol AR to make it more comfortable to shoot. But it was designed very much like a stock, and you could shoulder it, but you could shoulder a Glock pistol if you wanted. So it's a bunch of gray area, and so anyway, needless to say, Ryan's decided, because of all this kind of ATF garbage, he's going to move away from that and turn it into a short-barreled rifle. Is that right?
Yeah, legally turn it into a short-barreled rifle with proper paperwork and paying the tax stamp and that sort of thing.
Giving the government some money.
Yeah, so, but it still remains a pistol at this time. But anyway, so back to the original subject at hand. We had a little sidetrack there.
I like to get a little off the rails. No big deal.
Oh yeah, no big deal. I had that pistol and the a 300 Blackout 16-inch barreled rifle, and I just came to the decision really once I made it an SBR. Any rounds that I had loaded just would probably go into the SBR. So the 300 Blackout rifle just wouldn't get any loving, and so decided to turn that build into a precision, kind of long range AR-15.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been in the process of looking at some different barrels to replace it with. Looked at 18-inch, 20-inch, Wilson Combat, Krieger. Let's see.
And that's what you went with, isn't it, Krieger?
I haven't purchased yet. But that's kind of where I'm leaning
Your
towards.
Your finger's hovering over the buy button.
It is hovering right there.
Right now.
It's just as soon as actually I've got the page open looking at it, but just lusting after it really. But but yeah, there's some Daniel Defense barrels I was looking at. Some let's see.
I can't even think of any other barrel manufacturers. I know there's a ton, and I know I've looked at a bunch, but.
Mm-hmm. And but yeah, so I haven't really made the decision yet. But in the meantime, I've decided to actually do like a paint job on that AR-15. So as I was taking out the old barrel, I just decided to strip down the whole thing. Which really doesn't take very long. It only took me about 30 minutes to get the whole thing down to, just a stripped lower and a stripped upper.
Which you're very familiar with those guns.
Oh
so
yeah.
It's not your first.
Not my first rodeo.
Yeah.
So on this.
Yeah. Last time we were out shooting, Ryan starts pulling grass out of the ground, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to use this to paint my gun," and I'm like, what do you?
Yeah.
How are you going to paint your gun with grass?
Right.
And so he sent me a picture the other day, and he did you did a base coat of kind of a flat dark earth.
Base coat was actually tan.
Okay,
coyote,
so tan.
Coyote tan.
And then did you lay the grass on there?
Yeah.
So
I had
over it?
The base coat of tan, which this actually came out really nice. I'm gonna post some pictures up here after we release this episode.
Yeah, we'll throw one up on our Instagram too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Instagram, our Facebook page, that sort of thing. But yeah, so laid it all down. Well, first, most importantly, got the thing taped up, with the masking tape.
Yes.
Yeah, the painter's tape. So got that. Then just laid kind of, I had my base coat of tan, coyote tan, kind of a lighter color. Put down the grass once it had all dried and cured. Just kind of laid grass on top of it. Kind of made sure it was kind of in a neat pattern.
Instead of a big clump.
Yeah, big clump. You want to have some space in between so it kind of breaks itself up. And then did a flat dark earth on top of that in kind of swaths or segments,
Mm-hmm.
And then finally finished up with a kind of a OD green almost. It kind of almost looks gray, kind of a grayish green. Yeah, real interesting color. But I just finished. So once you do. Each kind of pass, or each kind of session of painting and then waiting for it to dry and then flipping it over and doing the other side and then switching to the next color. After you do that, I actually pulled it out and it actually looked really nice.
Yeah, I like the photo. You sent me a photo and
yeah.
Even though the photo was a little bit potato quality, it looked cool. I really liked it. And then it made sense on why you brought the grass home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, Ryan's not a crazy person.
Right, that just goes out and picks dead grass.
Pulls stuff out of the ground and says things about it.
I want this, yeah.
What else have you had rolling for you this last couple weeks?
Well, I did get a Timney trigger for that gun. And like I said, I'm looking at different barrels, looking at different optics. I'm actually going to take the optic I currently have on my 308 Tikka that I've been shooting, the primary arms 4x14x scope, and I'm actually going to move that over to this gun the this 223 gun. And so, and I think actually that'll be a nice optic to sit on there.
Oh yeah, I
And
mean it's
then,
been good for your 308. So
oh yeah, yeah, it's been fantastic. Not a problem with it at all. It does really well on the 308. But I am gonna, like I kind of talked about last week, or a couple weeks ago, where I've been kind of looking at different Bushnell elite scopes. Um, More specifically, I guess I'm kind of looking at either the GDR 2 or the GDR 2.
I can't remember. I know you've
Let
told
me
me like 5 times, but
Yeah, yeah, at least 5 times. No, just the G2 scope. Yeah, just the G2 FFP scope that they've got. Between that one and the kind of the Horus reticle that is just kind of recently come out, not too long ago.
and the horse reticle, tell us a little bit about that. That's kind of designed to be more of a holdover.
Yeah, yeah, definitely more of a holdover type reticle.
Where you kind of do everything in scope rather than
with actually dialing turrets.
Yeah, dialing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it has hash lines and marks. I think from your 0 at 100 all the way down to 10 or 12 mils. This one's going to be in mils as opposed to MOA.
I don't even know if do they make the horse in MOA reticle?
I don't believe so.
I don't think they do. I think it is in mils.
Yeah, I think it's just in mils. But then they've got kind of your, I think it's 0.2 mils for subtensions between each mil mark. So you've got some little subtensions in there. But then it's really kind of interesting because it's a grid format almost.
Yeah.
A nicely done grid format. Like a lot of people say it's busy, but after looking at it for quite a bit, I think you would be pretty focused on just where you're looking at and actually looking kind of past the reticle onto your target, and then just kind of lining up those markings with your target. So,
yeah, and I mean it is busy if you're looking at a hunting reticle as opposed to the horse reticle.
Right.
It's going to feel overwhelmingly busy, but
sure.
It does seem like one of those reticles that you're going to get used to over time, and I think it's going to be a very fast scope to allow follow-up shots. You don't have to. You can go from engaged targets at 200 yards and then clear out to 1,000 yards.
If the wind suddenly changes, are you going to dial that? Are you going to kind of measure and see where you're at, or are you just going to, use the Horus reticle to
find your holdover? So I'm excited for you to get that.
Yeah,
if you do.
Yeah, you'll have to. I think so. I think that's what I've kind of settled on.
I like Ryan gets all these cool toys, and then I get to try them out.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome.
That's how the relationship works.
Right.
He's way ahead of me in the field of awesome toys.
Well, you've got your Vortex, and that's been very nice.
I do. I do like my Vortex.
Yeah.
And it's got a pretty busy reticle. I believe it's called the X. Is it XLR? No, it's not. That's my chassis. I can't remember what they call it. It's like they kind of refer to it as a Christmas tree reticle.
Yeah.
Because it starts with just kind of a point on the bottom half of your reticle below your crosshair, and then as it goes down, it spreads out further and further like a Christmas tree would, and it's also used for quick kind of adjustments and holdovers in scope without dialing. And it doesn't bother me at all. Like I'm never thinking, I wish this, all this information was out of the way. But that's just been me. So.
Well, now yours is in MOA, correct?
It is.
Is that right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Minute of angle, and I want to learn mils because I think why not? Why not learn both?
Yeah.
And I know with minute of angle it was really easy to learn, and I'm sure mils will be really easy to learn, and then that way I can go from one to another and not have a problem. So.
Well, and as Americans, we kind of look at the inch system, or the imperial system, I guess, is what that is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we use inches, kind of in our daily lives, and that kind of makes more more sense to us, I think, than centimeters.
Well, yeah. I mean, a true
Or
American's going to use an MOA scope.
yeah.
I mean, that's just that's how you get your citizenship.
That's right. Using MOA scopes. Yeah, I'm sure
No,
that's
I
on the
mean
test somewhere.
the rest of the world uses mills, and
Or military.
obviously a lot of people use mills on their scopes and their optics, and
Yeah.
so I think it's good to learn both.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, Jace, how about you? What have you been up to this week? Anything
Well, Ryan
fun and exciting?
neglected to mention that we had a little fun a couple days ago,
Oh yes.
and we had a little bit of an impromptu 500-yard challenge to ourselves. We went out to go shooting. Originally, Ryan kind of has his load developed, and he's got his pretty much pinned down. I'm still searching different loads and experimenting with different bullets, but I've noticed my gun has been shooting about an inch or sub MOA with a lot of loads. There's a couple that haven't shot very well or very consistently, but it's been doing really well. So now I've just been looking at things like velocity and my standard deviation. So I'm trying to get it to where my velocity is consistent from shot to shot. So anyway, we went out. I thought I was just going to be shooting at 100 yards to test a couple loads, but Ryan has a steel target that's 19 by 11?
Yeah, 11 and a half. So it's a 2/3. Oh boy, IPSC target. I think.
Yeah, it's like a silhouette. So like from the stomach up, it's got kind of a. I got the hiccups all of a sudden. It's got like a man shape to it, or
torso.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
So it looks like a humanoid, and we decided to go hang it up 500 yards away and just take a whack at it. And we walked it up 500 yards. It's about killed us because we're horribly out of shape.
Yeah.
And we came back, ranged it. It was dead on 503 yards around. And we got down into our position, all laid out, ready to go. And then I realized that I had no idea where my zero is at with the load that I brought out, because it was a new load. And I didn't even know where my 100-yard zero was going to be, and I didn't know my velocity. And so I put the magneto speed on, which is our chronograph that Ryan picked up. Again, another toy of Ryan's that I get to use.
Oh yeah, many toys.
And so I had that hooked on there, which also messes with my point of impact by about 2 to 3 inches at 100 yards. It doesn't necessarily make my groups bigger or smaller, but it does shift my point of impact because of that weight on the end of the barrel. So I literally just I thought, well, this is kind of a waste for me because
almost stupid, you know.
It's a little stupid.
Yeah.
But so I just kind of took an educated guess, and I did about a 10-minute of angle holdover in my scope, and I somehow managed to get my first round on the target. And I think we were both very surprised to hear the sound of the steel getting smacked.
Oh yeah.
And of course I was just delighted, and I fired a few more rounds, hit it a couple more times, and then I started to try to dial it on my turret just to see about exactly what it was. And I missed a few shots and started to hit again, and it was a lot of fun. Ryan, he threw a couple shots at it, and we didn't have it set up in an area where you could really see your impact if you missed, because it was sitting kind of up on a flat spot, and then
on a hill almost.
On a hill, and so the backstop was another 70 yards behind it.
Right, the mountain behind it.
So unless you were hitting really low, you couldn't really spot your impact. So we weren't really sure where Ryan was hitting. And then he got to thinking. We got talking about wind, because we had about a 5 mile an hour crosswind, and he decided to do a little holdover for wind. And as soon as he did that, he started smacking the target.
Oh yeah, so it was just sailing right around the side there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I just couldn't tell for a while. But it was actually interesting because like at 100 yards, the little bit of a breeze on my face,
Mm-hmm.
that I was feeling, wouldn't have thought anything of it. Uh, it wouldn't have really done anything to the point of impact, I guess. But
Yeah, you wouldn't have noticed because it
yeah,
was a slight breeze for sure. But at
oh
500
sure,
yards,
right. You've got
that's
more
just enough to
distance.
start pushing it around.
Yeah, to about a 5 mile an hour wind holdover. So it was definitely a learning experience for me. That was actually my first time uh, shooting at that distance.
Yeah, me too.
And so definitely like kind of a learning experience, um, and a good one. You just you don't get these things until you actually go out and do it, I guess. So
Yeah,
uh,
and I'm excited for us to go out again and for me to actually have a load developed to where
hmm
I can pump some information into my ballistics calculator and see that in action. So yeah, that was a lot of fun doing a 500-yard shot. I'm sure we're gonna do it more. And we
yeah,
actually uploaded a video of our experience with that on our YouTube channel, Long Range Noob Podcast, and you can go check that out if you want. And I promise it's not too long. Hopefully it's not too boring. I I do film and photography for a living, so I'm lucky to have the software needed to edit. Now, it wasn't filmed necessarily super professional because we didn't even know we were going to be doing it.
yeah. I used
So
my Galaxy Note 4.
yeah, we used Ryan's phone, and I had my DSLR camera with me that I just set up. I didn't have a tripod with me, but I think we made it for what we had. We made it pretty good, and I think you guys would enjoy watching it. It's about 3.5 minutes long. So let's see. Aside from
Yeah,
that,
check that out.
I was lucky enough to get a gun trust set up,
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
I was recommended someone, an attorney by the name of Jim Alder, out of Utah, and he's a very respected gun trust lawyer.
As
And
as respectable as they can be, I
yeah,
suppose.
those
So
those dirty lawyers. Um, no, he was very good and thorough, and he went over everything with me, explained a whole bunch of stuff to me, and legal stuff is definitely not something I enjoy reading through. Um, I'm sure everyone has experienced user agreements when downloading, music or movies or uh, signing up for something or installing software. Nobody reads legal print because it's just you don't understand it. That's the problem. Is uh, maybe if it was something comprehensible, some people would read it, but and the gun trust is no different. There's a lot of legal stuff in there that's just it's difficult to understand. But Jim was really good to go over it with me, and it came in a nice fancy binder. It's got all my paperwork in there. He also gave me digital forms of it, and the best part about it is I can contact him anytime I need to when I have questions, which I already have done. But he's always kind of there for legal counsel, and it doesn't cost me any extra. And that's kind of the benefit of having it done by maybe a local lawyer who specializes in trusts, not just anyone who can do it and is going to charge you a whole bunch of money just because they have the ability to, but actually look for someone who is maybe in the firearms community or specializes in that. And I know that you can also get gun trusts online, which I think is probably a fantastic option for someone who just wants to get a suppressor and they want to set up a trust. But you just got to realize that the people you're buying it from most likely aren't lawyers. And if you need to seek legal counsel of any kind, you're probably going to end up paying quite a bit for that legal counsel, someone local, to go through your gun trust, read it, and they're going to charge you X amount of dollars per hour to do that. So
hmm
that's one thing to think about. If you buy a template trust from a website, that's not to say they're not valid or they're not any good. Make sure to obviously do your research. I know Silencer Shop does them,
yeah,
and I think they're a highly trusted website.
I think they
And
just started that
yeah,
just recently.
and
So
Silencer Co. out of Utah, here in West Valley, Utah, they also, I think just
oh
today or yesterday,
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Silencer Co. Sorry, not
Yeah,
Silencer Shop.
Silencer Shop. I don't know how long they've been doing it,
I think.
but I don't think it's been a really long time. But
Yeah.
now Silencer Co. has just announced their
Kind of online
they're
trust that you
online.
can
You
get
can
for
fill it out online,
individuals.
and you can fill that out and buy a suppressor. So I think it's really cool because it's streamlining everything, and it's just allowing people to kind of express their rights and own things that they should be able to own as a respectable and safe. And it's really nice that the responsible gun owners out there can get their hands on things that they should be able to have, like suppressors and short-barreled rifles and so on. So I'm really excited about having it because it means that the next step is getting my suppressor.
Oh yeah.
So
What have you been looking at as far as getting one?
let's see. So I was looking at the Silencer Co. Harvester, which is kind of targeted towards hunters, and it's got this really unique build on the end of it. It looks kind of like a muzzle brake, so it's kind of a suppressor with a muzzle brake on the end, and apparently it functions like that and helps reduce even more recoil. And seemed to be, and this was going to be for my 300 Win Mag.
Yeah, because it's rated up to that, right?
It is, yeah. But at SHOT Show 2 weeks ago, they announced the Omega.
Ooh.
And
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's just a cool name right there.
Right.
So you about have to
Have
give
to
it a
about
chance.
buy one. Yeah.
So it's called the Omega. It's got really good ratings on 762 and 556 as far as decibel ratings. And
Yeah. What actually I thought was interesting is compared to the 556 Saker, what that is also made by Silencer Co. It actually rates I think like 4 decibels lower, being a 30 cal can.
which is
on
a lot. 4
556.
decibels is a lot.
Yeah.
I want listeners to know when you're looking at suppressors that every 10 decibels is double the I guess double the
Perceived hearing or,
the
or
perceived hearing.
loudness.
So
Perceived
double the loudness. So you go
Yeah.
from 130 to 140. Well, you've now doubled the decibels. So if you go from a gunshot that's 165 decibels unsuppressed to a suppressed shot that's down into the 130s, that's almost 3 times quieter. So
Yeah.
so 4 decibels is a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But yeah, it's a 30 cal can. But you can definitely they've got mounts and stuff, so you can mount it up to your AR and shoot your AR 15 through there. And yeah, I think it's a great option. Lightweight. What was it, like 14 ounces? I think is what they quoted it as.
I think so, and it's
7 inches long.
I know Silencer Shop has it on sale for $880 right now for the Omega, and I'm sure I can find it at that price. I'd like to buy it local
Sure.
or through someone on Long Range Shooters of Utah or somewhere like
Gunnies
that.
or
Yeah, I like to buy local if I can. If I can find,
the gun
first of all,
vault,
if I can
I
find
know.
the product, and second of all, if they have a decent price, then I'll get it through someone here. So anyway, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, and I think at least Silencer Co. They're actually from Utah.
Yes.
And so that I guess makes it a little easier to get their products here, in Utah. A lot of the shops around here seem to carry them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's
And
great.
I like Silencer Co. I like everything from their marketing to just the way they handle themselves. And I've heard interviews of some of the guys that work at Silencer Co. I've listened to other podcasts where they've come on the show, and it's someone that we'd like to try to pull someone in from Silencer Co. As soon as we can, and have them tell us about what they're doing and how they're pushing silencers and suppressors. And I think they're just doing an awesome job, at least the best I've seen of any company with their marketing. Their marketing, I think, is really modern, up to date, and speaks to the right crowd. So I have to hand it to them. They've done a great job. And they're a fairly new, young company, but they seem to be at the forefront of suppressors. So kudos to them.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that kind of wraps up the big milestones I've had in the last 2 weeks, is the 500-yard shot and getting a gun trust written up. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, so I think we're going to move into our first topic. of this week, which is shooting with a purpose or goal-oriented shooting, which is something Ryan brought to my attention, and I think it's a really good topic to talk about for someone who's getting into long-range shooting or shooting in general, and basically maximizing their time spent behind the weapon.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of our listeners have expressed to us, that they've got to drive like 2 hours to shoot at 100 yards,
Mm-hmm.
or I think what was his name? Let me see if I see it here in our notes.
That was
Retarded crap tastock.
Is that who that? Oh yeah,
That was his name. Yeah,
I'm not sure if we can say that on our
right.
I might have to
bleep
censor
that out
that
or something.
but,
yeah. But yeah, I think he was one of our Reddit, or one of your Reddit users that you had kind of communicated with a little bit.
possibly. Now he did express that he has to drive a long ways to shoot anywhere beyond 100 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what Ryan's alluding to is that we have limited time. We can't all just run out every weekend and go shooting, and also it costs money to go shoot.
Yeah, you're just throwing dollars round down range,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's best to be productive with that time and with that money that you're spending there.
Yep.
And so I think as we've been going out, not every time, but I think a lot of the times we go out with specific goals in mind. Um, things that we want to accomplish, or things that we want to try,
Mm-hmm.
gear that we want to test,
Mm-hmm.
to see if it functions well or doesn't. Sometimes things don't live up to expectations. So I think if you go out with goals in mind, it's kind of things you've been thinking about throughout the week, things that you want to do. I don't know. It just kind of makes your shooting more productive.
Yeah, I
For
agree.
example, we've been doing a lot of load development recently.
A lot.
Yeah, a ton. So,
Like that's all
uh,
we've been doing.
yeah. So it took me, probably, um, when I started at the bottom, and kind of worked my way up, and every time, I'd measure, take careful measurements with the chronograph, the magneto speed. I'd take pictures of each 5-round group that we shot, to see how they landed, how they compared to other groups, multiple groups of the same load,
Mm-hmm.
and just it's just a data collecting process, I guess. But once I finally had collected enough data, I was able to determine what I wanted in the 300 or 308 load that I'm going to be running. So yeah, I don't know, it's a great process, and it gives you a lot of um, definitely a lot of time on trigger,
Yeah.
which is nice. Any practice you can get is great, and but just definitely helps to maximize the effectiveness of your round, and of what you're kind of going out there to do.
Yeah, and
So, which is put rounds down range.
I think if you're maximizing your time and you're putting as much effort into each shot as you can, it's just going to move you closer to your goals quicker. You're going to save money because you're going to shoot less to get to where you want to be.
Hmm.
And then you can spend all the money in the world uh, shooting the load that you know is right for your gun and works really well. And what I've learned is that your accuracy is dependent on your weakest data point.
Hmm.
So wherever your weakest data point is, whether it's if you got a terrible rangefinder and it's not pumping out accurate information, or you have a round that has varying velocities all over the place, or you're not maybe you have a bipod that kind of sucks, and every
Or
time you lean up onto your gun, that bipod isn't loading the same way, or whatever
mechanics of your scope.
Yeah, the mechanics of your scope. Maybe you got a really junky scope and an awesome gun, an awesome load, awesome bipod, everything else is great, but you have a terrible scope, then it doesn't matter how good everything else is.
Yeah, or scope mount, you know.
Yeah, your rings. I mean, that's a big deal.
Your rings.
And so there's so many of these data points. And
small little things, you know.
Yeah, it could. Yeah. I mean, yeah, something as small as not having your scope rings torqued down to the right torque spec and everything even, that could ruin everything else in the system. So if you have really good data for all the points in your system of your rifle, which goes from everywhere from the screws, the action screws that are tightening down, to the scope you have, the rings, to the round you're shooting, how you're getting your range, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
The more you can hone those, the more accurate you're going to be. And that doesn't even take into account the shooter. And so I think it's very important that you have your gun set up in the best way you possibly can. That means taking your time when you mount your scope. Don't just throw it on there and eyeball everything and tighten it up.
Level it.
Yeah, level it. Get everything on there as good as best you know how. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, watch some YouTube videos. There's so much good information out there to watch that can help people kind of do it yourself situations like mounting a scope, how to level it.
Oh yeah. I'm a huge advocate of doing it yourself. I mean, you might, I've built ARs.
Yeah.
I don't think I own a gun that has not been modified in some way, some legal way, or another. Quotations there.
Way to save yourself.
Right. Yeah. So, I've just always been a fan of, just doing it myself, and then, if something doesn't work out, try again.
And if you don't feel comfortable with it or don't have time, take it to a gunsmith. Take it to someone that you trust. Find someone who can help you with it, because it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because again, if you go out to collect load data, but your gun isn't set up right, then that data is not going to. Yeah, it's not going to be useful to you, because it's not going to be accurate or correct. And so I think that's a huge part of shooting with a purpose, and goals are awesome. Set a goal to go shoot a 5-round group, and with every shot in that group, concentrate on things like loading into your bipod. And what I mean by that is how much pressure you're putting into your bipod as you lean into it, because you want to kind of load that bipod up the same amount of pressure each time and keep everything consistent, because that's another thing about accuracy. It's all about consistency. Pay attention to how you have your face on your stock, and dial the parallax out in your scope. That's something that I forget almost every time I go out. There's a couple of shots where I look up and realize my parallax isn't adjusted out. And for anyone who doesn't know what parallax is, it's basically getting your reticle plane on the same plane as the target you're shooting, so that when you move your head a little bit in your scope while you're looking down range, your crosshair is going to stay on the target regardless of whether or not your head's moving. Because if your parallax is off, if you put your head down on the gun differently than the shot before, then that parallax, it could look like you're aiming at the red dot on your target, but you might not be. So just go through kind of some drills, set goals to maybe create a checklist of what do I do when I get down behind the gun first, and kind of go through this checklist. And I just think that's a great point that Ryan brought up to me about shooting with a purpose, and just maximizing your time and money is basically what it boils down to.
Yeah, I mean those things are something we're all kind of in short supply, So wherever we can stretch it out, every little bit helps. So no, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. I enjoy that process of learning, because you start to see yourself getting better. I know I've seen myself get better in just this last 4 months. Just my trigger control and understanding my weapon, and my confidence level just keeps rising. So, and this This kind of moves us along to our next topic, which is when it comes to building your rifle, because I know there's probably a lot of people out there who are either building or just got a rifle, and there's also people out there, and this probably is anyone who owns a rifle. We're always looking for the next upgrade, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, as I said, I don't think I own a gun that I haven't upgraded in some way.
So, you buy a rifle, and how do you, Ryan, the Steel Slapper Danowski, decide on what you're going to upgrade next? I want to hear your
words of
process.
wisdom here.
Yes,
Yeah.
like how do you go about it specifically? So you just got a new rifle. Let's say everything's mediocre on it. Nothing's amazing. Nothing's terrible. Where do you go?
Oh well, I think you want to maximize your money. Maximize where you're putting money in order to get the most benefit. Um, like with your case, with your like Remington 700 that you had,
Mm-hmm.
that when you first got it, it was kind of and it's still, I don't know, it hasn't ever been like a great shooter,
Not yet.
Yeah,
Well,
not yet.
I mean, I've gotten some really good groups out of it, but
Just issues a little bit here and there.
yeah, it's been, and a lot of that could have been me, since that was really my first rifle for this purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
and I do have some loads that have shot really well out of that gun, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I'll let you get back to your point.
Oh, well, there's two things that I think that you did well. First thing you did was you got a quality optic. And what was again did you pick up? It was a Vortex Viper.
It is a Vortex Viper HS LR 6-24.
Yeah. Great scope for the money. Definitely in the solid like medium, I think, and like
Yeah.
medium high
Yeah,
end of scopes.
agree with that for sure.
Yeah. And so I think that was a good choice. Especially for that gun. And so yeah, I think as we said before, you can't shoot what you can't see, and so if you're trying to, and that gun is set up for long range, and that's kind of your purpose in it.
Yeah.
And so scope, good glass on there is definitely a good thing. Next for that particular gun, if I was going to do anything, I think I would swap out the X-Mark Pro trigger that's in there.
Why? Because it's defective?
Yeah, that might be
And
a
could
first
go
clue
off
there,
at any moment.
right? Yeah. But no, I've
It's
shot
not.
just
It's not a good trigger anyway, even if
Yeah.
it does work.
Yeah. It's kind of when I remember when I shot it, it was a little gritty, kind of a long length of pole.
Yeah,
And,
it just didn't feel. It was like kind of mushy and.
Yeah. So I would replace that maybe with a nice Timney trigger.
I do want one of those.
Yeah. The other thing that I think, because at first you noticed that your barrel was not free floated. Is that correct?
No, not even close. So
A lot of pressure,
you can
mounted in
you
that
can
stock.
do
I
a
don't
dollar
know.
bill test, people call it, where you basically run a dollar bill from where your barrel and the end of your stock come together, and you should be able to run that all the way back to your action basically, and that just
And if it runs through there, then you know that the
nothing's touching your
barrel
barrel.
is not touching your stock exactly.
But my stock was touching the barrel in several places, and it was a wood stock, which wood stocks swell and they compress based on temperature and humidity and all that. So
So stock replacement for you, I think, was your other almost best bang for buck, in that case. I think, you got a chassis, I think, for yours, but
I did.
you don't necessarily, and I think you spent a little bit of money on that, didn't you?
they are basically $599 for the XLR Element chassis is what I got, and
Yeah.
I have to say it did help a ton. My gun went from shooting 2-inch groups to shooting 1-inch groups once I got the chassis, and I think that free floating issue was a huge problem. But honestly, I could have taken the original stock apart and just sanded the barrel channel myself, and probably could have gotten the same results without buying a chassis.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I actually did on a little 22 that I've got. Wooden stock. I think it was a Lakefield, which is before Savage became, or before they became Savage, or Savage bought them, something like that. But it's a Lakefield Mark II. Yeah, a little old 22. I still shoot it though. I like it.
I love shooting that thing.
Cool little gun. Yeah, we've
had actually 2.5 million rounds through it or something.
Right. But actually, we've got a video out of us shooting it suppressed.
On our YouTube channel.
Yeah, on our YouTube channel. So shooting it suppressed with the Spectre 2 suppressor for 22, and but yeah, I free floated that barrel, and also did a bedding job on it. Just because I could,
Yeah, well, it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, kind of my first learning experience. I don't think that the Tika needs it. It's shooting really well, and my Tika 308. But I had planned, if I had gotten the Tika and it didn't shoot well, that I would do a bedding job on it. And as I've said, I like to do things myself. I like to learn and just kind of grow in knowledge, I guess, about the sport that I love. And so, did that bedding job as kind of a practice or a trial run for when I actually would do the Tika. And it turned out great. I think it shoots quite a bit better. The barrel's definitely free floating now, and yeah. So, I think
what I've learned from bedding, what I've read about it and watched on YouTube is it can benefit your accuracy immensely, but it may not benefit it at all. And I know some people will go out and bed their gun expecting it to do wonders, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it can ever hurt you.
Unless it's a poor job, I guess. But
unless it's a crap bedding job, but it may not help you either. So it's one of those things that you can do, and it may help, but it's not going to hurt. And for anyone who doesn't know what a bedding job is or what that's referring to, is you basically take and you can do it with a few different substances, but I think the most popular is, they call it a glass bed, which I think is just fiberglass, right?
Yeah, liquid fiberglass.
Yeah, like a liquid fiberglass that you pour into the where your action fits into
the stock.
Into your stock, and you spray some non-stick stuff onto your action so that you can pull your action apart. But you basically place it down into the gun after you've taped it off, and you have this liquid bedding in there, and then after it dries, you've created a perfect fit from the stock to your action. And it's what that's supposed to do is increase your consistency, because some stocks might have just microscopic movements in there that could be some wiggle room that's changing, especially under recoil. And so a bedding job, it does make sense that it would increase accuracy.
Yeah. So I think you kind of hit good points so far, at least with your specific gun. Those are kind of the things that I look for whenever I'm looking for kind of upgrading. I first make sure that my accuracy is going to be there. I look at the barrel, make sure that I've got a good, decent barrel in there. I look at the glass, make sure I can, hit what I want to hit and see what I want to see.
I guess that's important.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And just kind of look for little things that I can do to make things more efficient. One thing you don't want to do is just throw junk on your gun.
You don't want to make it tactical.
Tactical Mall Ninja, type of gun. Yeah. You want to keep them as light as possible, within the constraints of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. If you're doing bench rest stuff and you're not moving around, then you can get a big old heavy gun.
Yeah,
that's
and it doesn't
perform well. But if you're doing stuff where you're moving around or you plan on doing hunting with your gun, you're going to want to think about those things. Shorter barrels, lighter optics. Do you want a bipod on there or not? Just you got to think about those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, a bipod, you know, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I gotta just put a bipod on. But if you're doing hunting, you know, you're gonna be moving around with that gun. You're gonna be a lot of times, you know, you might not be able to get in a position where you can effectively use a bipod.
Most of the time, you will not be able to use your bipod.
Yes, when hunting, yeah,
now,
definitely.
I do hunt with a bipod, and I can't remember a hunt where I've used the bipod in the sense where I'm in the prone position. I have nothing in front of me obscuring my shot. And that's where sticks
shooting sticks
come in handy, because you can get a much higher, or a tripod. Some people use tripods. I shot a bighorn sheep last year using a tripod, and it was a little hokey. Like the tripod wasn't. It was a camera tripod. It wasn't made to fit my gun. I didn't have a tripod mount on my gun, but I basically my friend rolled up a T-shirt and stuck it on top of the tripod head and kind of held it for me while I
shot that thing dead.
While I made a shot. So
yeah.
Target shooting, my bipod has been fantastic, and I would highly recommend it for target shooting.
Oh yeah, like what we've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, I'm sure there's situations where you can use it in hunting, and people do, and it works great. Just don't count on it. Don't plan on having a shot from, and that's another thing, is practice from sitting positions and standing and resting from sticks and on your bipod as well. I think if you're going to be hunting, you should practice what the realistic situations you're going to be running into.
Go out with that in mind, you know. Take those kind of shots, you know, sitting shots, leaning against a tree, you know, type shots. You know, things that you might expect to experience while you're out there on the hunt. You know, practice those things. Just what Jace was saying, you know, practice what you wanna be doing, and
practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach.
That doesn't really make sense in this context, but I'm going to say it anyway.
All right.
Now, going back to upgrading your weapon system, I have a completely different approach than Ryan does. I actually have a roulette table with different pictures of upgrades, and I just let the ball fly, and whatever it lands on, I'm buying it. Which is why I have a samurai sword mounted underneath my gun like a bayonet.
Right.
So for me, Ryan went over basically the process I went through on my first rifle, which I went with a good optic, and I was going to go with a cheaper optic, but I went with the more $850 range optic, and I'm really glad I did. It's been really good, and it gave me a lot of room to learn on. And then I went with the chassis, and the chassis was great. I just don't think I needed to get it when I got it, because it was far superior to my skills, if that makes sense. So I think I could have just taken my original stock on that rifle and just kind of sanded the channel down and got a free floating barrel and went from there. Because I think, especially when you first start shooting, it's really easy to blame the gun or the gear when 99 times out of 100 it's the shooter. You know, it's the person pulling the trigger, and because there's just so much more room for error in that person. Most modern day rifles, they're amazing. You can pull them out of the box and immediately start shooting 2 inches, and with a lot of them 1 inch groups at 100 yards, which is just incredible to me. So that's another thing you should look at is blame yourself first. Look to see if you're doing everything you can, and that
and then go from there as far as gear goes.
Go from there. So try to remove yourself from the equation, and sometimes that means handing it over to somebody else. Let somebody else shoot the gun. If you have access to one of those kind of gun vices or lead sleds, they call them, where the gun is mounted up in kind of a heavy vice that doesn't allow it to shift around, that kind of removes the shooter from the shot. I don't recommend shooting with that in any other scenario, but if you're trying to figure out what your gun's doing, it might be helpful. So for me, it's just get a good optic. It doesn't have to be amazing, and there are budget optics out there. Don't let anyone tell you there's not a budget optic out there that will work for you.
Yeah, like I've been using that Primary Arms 4x14 FFP, and that thing's been awesome.
It has been. It's been really good. It tracks well.
Yeah.
It goes back to 0 after he's been shooting out to longer ranges. And I know that I've recently been hearing more and more about these Falcon scopes, which are also just like a Primary Arms.
Yeah, kind of in the same category.
Yeah, the same. And they're about, they're sub $500 first focal plane scopes that seem to be getting the job done for many, many people. So
they're out there.
Yeah, I listened to or watched the YouTube channel 8451 or 8541.
Tactical.
I can't remember now. Tactical.
Yeah, some number and Tactical.
With John McQuay, I think is his name.
That means they're legit though, if they've got Tactical in their name. So,
well, and I'm pretty sure John served in the military and highly respectable.
Anyone who's familiar with his channel knows, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
so.
I highly recommend it. But he had an episode that talked about he used a Falcon, and I think it was maybe one of his first legit sniper matches. He went to somewhere in the northwest, and won the tournament with it. And he mentions in this episode that it's kind of ironic because he won a U.S. Optics scope from winning that tournament, and he actually downgraded or moved the scope he used to win to put the new one on there. So yeah, don't let anyone tell you. Now, I think you need to be careful though, because us telling Ryan this is kind of my theory that the more budgety you go, the more risk you run for getting something that's garbage. And just be thorough in your research. There's obviously tons of it out there. If you can't find a lot of research on an optic or a scope, then you probably shouldn't get it. And that goes for anything. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't really trust something that didn't have a lot of feedback. And so just watch for that. And it can be done. There's budget items out there that you can buy that aren't going to break the bank, and it'll be plenty for what you need. Just watch yourself and make sure you do some good research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can always, upgrade later on.
If you have multiple rifles and you have multiple optics, you may want to think about selling them optics and putting the money towards one really good optic that you can switch back and forth. And this is talked about by legendary Todd Hodnett, who's just an insanely good shooter and instructor. And you can actually see him in the Magpul DVDs of The Art of Precision Shooting, I believe it's called.
Yeah. Or the precision rifle.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about that, and that does make sense. You can sell your scopes and get a really good scope that you can use on all of your guns, because chances are there's not a lot of people out there dual wielding hunting rifles.
Yeah, just get a mount, that is easily moved from one to the other. Yeah. And so then you got it mounted up in that mount, perfectly aligned, flush and level, and once it's in there, you just use your either quick detach or maybe there's screws or something. But you can just pop that off and move it to the next gun, and then you've still got your really nice optic.
Yeah. So that's a good way to get a really good optic for all of your rifles. So then you're shooting really good glass on all your rifles, and that's of course for people in situation that have multiple guns. But I think we all, even if we don't have multiple rifles, we all have multiple rifles that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think we covered that pretty well. We're actually going to talk about a little bit of news this week, and a couple of articles that I've been eyeballing is the one that we talked about just a second ago, is the taking an ethical shot while hunting at long ranges. And I know that long range hunting is becoming more and more popular, and there's a lot of debate over what's an ethical shot. And I enjoy hunting, and I also enjoy target shooting, long range target shooting, or getting out to long range target shooting. And I was always taught that above all things, when you're hunting, you need to be able to take an ethical shot. So if my target's moving or running, or is a long distance away, or is through a bunch of brush or trees, that I really need to consider all those things, because the last thing you want is a wounded animal running around out there and bleeding and hurt and suffering, and then you don't find it, and then it ends up just dying anyways, and I may go on to kill another animal to fill my tag with, and it's not good for anyone.
It's wasteful.
And, yeah, it's very wasteful. And so I've been asked by a couple people before what my thoughts are on that. For me, it's just like taking any other shot, whether it's 200 yards or 800 yards. If you have the skills and you know your limitations and you know if you can make that shot or not, that's really what it kind of boils down to. You know, do you have the equipment? Do you have a gun capable and a bullet capable of doing the job at that range? And do you feel confident that you can make that kill a clean kill? And then I for me, it's like that's just like a shot at 200 yards.
Yeah.
If you're confident you can make the kill and make the shot from 200 yards out. The same goes for people, because I certainly wouldn't sling a bullet 800 yards where I'm at right now at an animal.
Yeah.
Unless there's a coyote. Nobody likes coyotes.
No. But even then, you want to be ethical. You don't want to just.
Yeah, I mean, I love hunting. I really do. Yeah. But I do feel empathy for the animals that I kill every time. Like it just.
Oh yeah.
It's just how it is, and I feel very grateful for the animal, and because you're taking a life, whatever way you want to look at it. You're stopping a beating heart, and to me, that's a very powerful thing. And I think that's what's so great about hunting, is I think it's just kind of man going back to their roots, where we came from, being out hunting for food, and I think there's something special about that, and I think there's a real connection between you and the animal and just nature in general. And also, for me, it's been an awesome bonding tool for cousins and my brother and my dad, and it's just something that we share. And so, but that I still, like I said, I still feel empathy for every animal I've ever taken. And so to me, an ethical shot is really important, but I feel like I can definitely get to the point where I would feel comfortable taking a long range shot at an animal. But that's going to be with, for me, thousands of rounds of practice before that even comes into consideration. Something we want to add to this podcast is user feedback, and obviously we couldn't do that in episode 1 because the only users were Ryan and I.
Right, we had no feedback, so.
And I gotta say, I've been very pleased with the reception of episode 1. We had a lot of listeners, and we had quite a bit of feedback, and it was all really good, constructive feedback, and a lot of people have really enjoyed it so far, and I just wasn't expecting that good of a reception, to be honest. I thought we'd get a handful of listens, and we would go from there, but we got a couple hundred listens. We've got several people stopping by our YouTube channel, and a handful of people, people in our Facebook group and our Instagram as well. And so it's been really good interacting with the listeners, and I love that. And I want to keep that energy going, and I want to keep kind of that. I want people to feel like they have a voice in this, because you totally do. And that was one of the whole points of this podcast, was to get involved with a community of people who are also into this sport. And just, I think it's great sharing information and bouncing things back and forth and sharing milestones and things like that. So,
so we want to give a big thank you, to all of you that have dropped us a line and commented or.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And keep it up.
Yeah, so. I've got a couple of things here I'm going to read from some of our listeners, and some really, really cool feedback and comments. And we have probably one of my favorite names, A Goat on Your Desk, from Reddit. He replied to the post I made on there with our first episode, and he says, any plans in the future to actually film your recording sessions? One of the few podcasts I subscribe to records audio for the podcasts and then also records video for YouTube. I think it adds a level of interaction. And I guess the short answer is yes, we want to do that eventually. And it's going to require a little more production and a little more gear to record video. But we did start the YouTube channel so that we could upload video content as often as possible. Mm-hmm. And it may not be the podcast, but it'll be supplementary stuff that has to do with long range shooting and kind of our progress. So we hope that people really enjoy that. And then at some point we would like to have, hiccups again. Sorry. We'd like to have the podcast recorded as video as well, so we can upload that as the video instead of just audio. And then Dr. Connors from Reddit as well said, take this all as constructive criticism and suggestion only. After all, you are the expert. That's not true. And I have no podcasts of my own. Well, I have to say that Dr. Connors has just as much experience as we do, pretty much. He says, first, the two hosts of the show, one's name is Ryan. The other, I cannot tell you his name because Ryan rarely mentions it. So shame on you, Ryan.
His name's Jace.
You heard it here first,
right?
Folks. My name is Jace. And he mentioned break up your show into segments, which is something that we planned on doing anyway. But I think it was nice to kind of have someone reinforce that, and he goes on to make some really good suggestions. But we want to find kind of a format that people can expect, and I think people will see that we're doing that already in this episode, and we'll continue on. We'll refine it as it goes, and we'll take people's feedback into consideration. But we're really happy for Dr. Connors on Reddit for taking the time to reply to us and give us a little feedback on that. And then one more from Reddit is King Woodhacker, and he says, hey, just thought I would drop you a line and say that I enjoyed the first episode of the podcast. I'm also a noob when it comes to long range. I'm building my first rifle as we speak, and I enjoy listening to y'all's opinions on what to look for in a starter rifle. And, I mean, this is pretty much the position Ryan and I were in not too long ago.
Right.
So he's right there along with us. He picked up a Remington 700 AAC and 308, and he also has the primary arms 4x14, first focal plane with the mil dots. He had that scope on an AR, so he's using that. And that's the same one that Ryan uses on his 308. And he says he feels like this setup will be good for him to learn the basics of shooting distance on. And his goal, he set a goal, which I think is fantastic because we just talked about that, of shooting 1 minute of angle target at 1,000 yards within a year. And I totally think he can do it. And I think it's awesome that he set a goal like that. And I hope we really hear back from him because I want to find out, how things are going.
Yeah. So keep us updated on your progress.
King Woodhacker.
Yes.
Drop us a line. Whether it's just go to our Facebook page or our group, search Long Range Noob, join that up so you can post pictures, anything you're doing out there, and let us know how it's going for you.
And we kind of hope that some of the information that we're giving here, it will help you on your journey to accomplish that goal, really.
Definitely, yeah, because you're just behind us like 2 steps.
Yeah.
And you may surpass us, who knows? So maybe you'll be giving us good information, but we hope that this podcast will be useful information for you and helping you with that. So good luck, sir. Mm-hmm. And we also received an iTunes review, our very first one, by the one and only Retarded Crap Tat Stock.
Every time.
And I want to say retarded craptastic, but that's not what it is.
No.
It's retarded crap tat stock. I think. So,
who knows?
He gave us a really good review, and I was really excited about that. And like I said, anyone who wants to take time to do that, we'd love to have an iTunes review come up anytime. He goes on to say, really liked the first episode, guys. It really hit home when you talked about some of the people struggling to find range. That's me. Closest range over 500 is 4 hours away. Closest range over 100 yards is 2 hours away. But I love it. So I make time. So
awesome.
Kudos to you for making time. I think that's really awesome that you know, Ryan and I are spoiled. We don't have to go 30 minutes. You know, it's actually 15 minutes from Ryan's house.
Yeah, 15.
And so for me, it's about 30 minutes, and we can do all the shooting we want. So bravo to you for taking the time and energy that it takes to go do that.
Hang in there and stick with it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Move.
Yeah, move. Go out to the wilderness.
Right.
You know?
Ryan gives a good positive push in the right direction, and I just tell him
Jace is just
to
like,
move.
you need to move.
You need to pick up you and your family,
get out of the
your
city.
dog, or whatever you own, your fish, your cat. Move away. Come over to Utah. We'd be happy to have you.
Homestead, you know, like out there in the wilderness, and you can shoot off your back porch. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, get off the grid. Just get off the grid.
There you go.
That's not asking much. Just leave all your family and friends and your job. So
it's awesome.
That's my advice to you, retarded crap tat stock. But no, we really appreciate the review. Absolutely.
That was awesome.
And we'll try to stop rubbing it in that we have range all around us, 360 degrees we can go shoot at. But we promise we do understand that we're very lucky, and we think it's awesome that you take time like that to pursue what you love.
Mm-hmm.
What we all have in common here. So, and just a little YouTube feedback. Our first video we released had about a 35-second long intro and about 30 more seconds of video.
That was me.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah. Oh, this is my first shot at trying to do a
which honestly he did
video
a good job.
editing.
So that's the first time he's
you.
ever done anything, and I think he did just fine. But we've cut that down. We have another video up there, our 500-yard shot, and we for all of you ADD folks out there and the YouTube generation. It's only got about a 15-second intro, so I really hope I hope you just bite your lip and get through that 15 seconds, and I promise it'll be worth it. So, and special thanks to Gun Runners from YouTube. He shared our 500-yard video, and it got us a whole bunch of views, so we really appreciate that. That was awesome of him, and we also got some really good constructive criticism from Edith Subramanian, and he gave us some good feedback on our channel, so we really appreciate the help and people reaching out and just being really awesome about everything. So yeah, that's our user feedback, and we want to hear from people. We love it, and we read every comment, and we read every, and it's really, it's us replying, and it's not just some
guy over in India, that we've hired.
Yeah, it's not some random bot. Like it's Ryan and I. We like to read everything, go through it, and respond to everyone that we can. So
definitely.
So feel free to leave us some feedback on anything. So every week I guess I should say every other week, we're gonna try to both have some kind of product in mind or piece of gear or whatever it is that we're using in the world of long range, and just kind of talk about it, what we like about it, or why we're excited, or maybe it's junk and we're doing a PSA just to warn people not to touch it. For me, something I saw at SHOT Show that I thought was really cool is this new Magpul Hunter 700 stock. And I'm sad because it's only for the Remington 700 short action.
Yeah, so Magpul, if you're listening to this, make it for a Tikka.
Yes, please. Jump straight to the Tikkas. Please, the Tikka T3.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I imagine... I really like Magpul. I think they've done a lot of good stuff. I think it's cool that they stood up for themselves in Colorado, and when Colorado started to pass laws that limited how many rounds you could have in a magazine, Magpul basically said, we don't agree with that, and we're going to move our operation to a different state.
Business, take it elsewhere.
I think that's awesome. So, anyway, obviously the Remington 700 being the most available system out there, and most people have a gun in that format. I think it's smart that that's the first one they chose to do, and I would think if it does well in the market, that they will go on to make it for Savage. They'll probably go Savage next, is my guess.
Yeah.
And I would love for a Tika version. Heck, I'd love for a version that's not even cut out, that you could take somewhere and have them cut it out for whatever action you want.
Oh, yeah.
So, something to keep in mind, Magpul. Anyway, this particular stock, it's, first of all, the price, I think, is awesome. And MSRP is for like $260.
Yeah, $260.
And it has a aluminum bedding block, so you don't got to worry about free floating your barrel. You don't got to worry about bedding it. It's ready to go. It has a cheek riser on it, so you can adjust the cheek weld, which is huge. I feel that that's most people's weakest point. You generally have 3 points of contact on your rifle. If you're holding it, if you're on the ground in a prone position, you probably only have 2 points of contact, with your third being your bipod. But your cheek weld, I think a lot of people don't think about where they're at, and they have no problem having to lift their head. And if you're lifting your head, then you're not going to be as accurate as you could be if you basically just you want to be able to close your eyes, lay down on your gun, open them, and be looking right through your scope. So if you're not, and you're probably going to need to get something to raise your cheek up. So it's nice to have an adjustable cheek piece. There's solutions out there. Like I have one on my Tika that's Velcro's on, and it works great. It's called an AccuPack. But having it built right in, like my chassis for my 300 Win Mag, has been really awesome because I can adjust it and it's ready to go. So the Magpul stock comes with that. It weighs just under 3 pounds. It's 2.9 pounds. And again, it works with all the factory Remington 700 short actions. So anyway, I think this stock looks awesome. If I had a Remington 700 short action, it would be right up there.
Yeah, and, comes in 4 different colors: black.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, flat dark earth, stealth gray, and olive drab green, apparently. Ooh. So yeah, for those that like to customize, or match your gear, you can find something.
Nice. Looks cool. Yeah. I haven't seen any reviews on it yet, other than preliminary SHOT Show stuff. But and I think they ship in April, I want to say. So you can order now, but I believe they don't start shipping until April.
Spring 2015 April estimate is what they say here on their homepage.
Yeah, there you go.
Or their webpage.
You heard it here first. Probably not.
Probably not.
That's my pick. That's my pick of the week.
It's awesome. Yeah. Props to Magpul on that one. They're great. They're always innovating, which is something that is awesome in this industry. Innovation.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when a company like that gets into long range gear, that gets me really excited.
Yeah, puts a smile on my face. So
yeah, definitely. Does Ryan have a pick of the week?
No.
It's such a sad
I didn't come prepared like you did. So
well, I didn't give Ryan enough warning. But I'm sure he will next time, now that he knows that we're going to be doing that. But
definitely.
We're going to wrap this up. This has been somewhat of a long episode. I will probably have to cut it down a little bit so you guys aren't
bored to tears.
Bored to death. So I'll close again by saying that you can follow us on Instagram, and you can find us on Instagram if you search Long Range Noob. We'd love to have you follow us on there. We're always posting content, and it's a great place to see other people, what they're doing, and we like to follow people back when they follow us, because we genuinely want to see how you guys are doing. You can find us on Facebook. If you join the Long Range Noob group, you can just search Long Range Noob and search into groups, and should be able to find us on there. We do have a link to our YouTube page on there, but you can also find our YouTube channel by going to the Long Range Noob podcast. And I know that you can Google that, or you can search it on YouTube and find us there. So you can subscribe on that, and make sure you can tune into all of our video content. And we also upload this podcast to YouTube. So sometimes if you don't have the ability to listen to it through iTunes or other podcast websites, then you can jump onto YouTube and listen to them there. And lastly, you can contact us on the Long Range Noob, or at the Long Range Noob at gmail.com. And you can just send us direct messages, send us comments, feedback. So far, we haven't got any hate mail, no anthrax delivered to my house.
Right. Not yet.
Which is awesome. So So yeah, we just hope that we can keep providing a really good podcast for everyone that's excited to listen to it every time. And like we said, our ultimate goal is to get it to a weekly show.
Yeah. I think that about wraps us up for this week.
It does. Okay, we're going to let everyone go, and we will see you next time. Cue and music.
You heard it first on the Long Range Noob.
You heard it first. All right, goodbye, everyone.
All right, goodbye.